Hello again, and thanks for watching. Today I'm going to talk about how I make platinum prints, a more extended video. I'm going to photograph this hosta plant, which is outside my studio, then make the black and white negative, and then from that negative make the platinum print. Well, hello again. It's okay. I know we're in the dark, and that's because we're in the dark room. And I've just developed 2 sheets of film of photographs that I'm going to be making some platinum prints from, or a platinum print. So here's the negative. It's just in the fixer. It's almost finished fixing now. So I'm just going to wash them, and I'll put them through hypo clearing agent first, and then wash them, and I'll show you what they're like afterwards. So after fixing, I've been rinsing the negatives for a few minutes in a number of changes of water, just to get rid of the bulk of the fixer. Then, just like my prints, when I talked about archival processing in a previous video, I'm using a hypo clearing agent, which will get rid of 90% of the fixer, and I'll leave it in here gently for about 2 minutes, and then I give them a final wash, and that way the negatives will last forever. As long as you kept well, it won't degrade because of chemistry. Just like the archival processing of the prints I showed you, negatives are also very important. And I've got every negative of every photograph I've ever made since I was 11, and I can look at those negatives now, and they're still in good condition, because I was told by a good photographer when I was a kid how to do this, and I've been doing it ever since, and I've never had any problems. So leave these in here for a couple of minutes, and then final wash, dry, and then I'll show you the negatives, and then we'll go through the printing process from the start. Well, here's the negative now, washed, dried, etc., ready to print. So what we'll do is I'll make some tests to begin with, based on tests that I've done before and prints that I've made before, so I have a starting point. Then when I've done the test and I come to make the final print, I'll take you through that whole sequence of making the final print right up until it's washed, dried, and finished at the end. Before we continue, can I just take a few moments to remind you that I have books for sale on my Big Cartel website page, which is a link up here, and is a link from my website. Thanks for that. Okay, well, it's the next day, and I've just just made this first test strip based on, as I said before, on previous prints that I've made, looking back through my notes, and I've made a guess at what the first test should be, what the first exposure and so on, and I'm very, very close with the first test, so that's good. It has a nice neutral image color, which I like, because I've used much more platinum than palladium in the mix. I've given this one 10 minutes exposure, under the ultraviolet light, and I'm just going to increase that about 20%. So the next, I'll make a full print now next time. So I think I'm so close that the next one will be pretty spot on. So I'm going to make a note in my notebook, the same mix of solutions, and I'm just going to give it 12 minutes instead of 10, and I'll keep this as my reference print in my notebooks. And now I'll go and coat a full sheet of paper and make the final print, or what I hope will be the final print. Okay, I have my sheet of paper here that I'm going to make the print on. I'm not going to use the whole sheet, of course, but I am going to mark out with my 8 by 10 inch template, because it's an 8 by 10 inch negative. I'm going to mark out the area of the paper that I actually want to coat with the materials. I don't want to coat the whole sheet, waste of materials, but I do want to make sure that I'm outside of the line. So what I do is I just position it roughly central, and with a very fine pencil I make a mark around the outside. That will be covered by coating material, so it won't show on the final print. And as I mentioned, I think in the previous video on platinum printing, the paper I use is Arches Platine, and I think it's 310 GSM, so it's quite a weight, and it has two sides to it. One side has a slightly rough texture, and the other side is dead smooth, and I always use the dead smooth side. So now I'm going to take this into the darkroom and coat it. I'm not going to show you the coating at this stage. I'll see, because the coating is covered on a previous video. So if you want to see me coat it, then you can refer to that, or if I have a minute or two to spare, I'll do it for you in the darkroom. But I'm going to be using, for this particular print, because I like the image color as it is, I'm going to be using 16 parts or 16 drops of platinum, 4 drops of palladium, and the ferric oxalate has to be 16 plus 4, 20, so equal amounts of the ferric oxalate, so 20 parts of ferric oxalate. And I'm going to give it 12 minutes, which is just 20% more than the test strip. So I'll take this into the darkroom and coat it. Well, I'm going to show you the coating anyway. This is my setup here. I've got a glass sheet, nice and flat, with my paper taped down flat to it. You probably can't see it, but I can see the faint pencil line that I've marked the area of the negative. So I'm going to make sure that's coated just to the outside of that line. So I'm coating enough to cover the negative, but not the whole paper and wasting materials. All my kit is here ready. The chemicals, platinum, palladium, ferric oxalate, my mixing and droppers, all glass or plastic. We don't want any metal coming into contact with anything now, because we're dealing with metals to begin with: platinum, palladium, ferric oxalate, obviously iron. So all my mixing vessels are either glass or plastic. I've got my Japanese hake brush ready to do the coating. I'm just going to make sure there's no dust or hairs or anything on the surface of the paper. You don't want any blemishes, obviously, so I'm using an anti-static brush just to make sure that's really nice and clean. And you have to be fairly quick with this. I'll just moisten the brush a little bit in distilled water. Ready. You've got to be fairly quick with this, but you've also got to be careful that you get it coated, of course, very, very evenly. So I'll pour a line down the middle of the paper and then begin to spread it across the surface of the paper, going in both directions, making sure that I'm covering up to and over the line to begin with, and then we can begin the process of smoothing it all out later. I'm just going slightly over the lines here now. Make absolutely certain that I'm covering the whole of the negative area. Then you want to get a nice even coating. It might help that my dad was a painter and decorator. I'm not sure what he'd think of my brushwork now, but I watched him painting for so long. Here we are, that's almost there, just making absolutely certain it's smooth and even. I'll wash out my brush, and we just leave that dry, and then we're ready for that to go, the negative to go onto that, into the contact printer, then into the ultraviolet light, and under the ultraviolet light to be exposed. And as you can see, I'm doing this in dim incandescent lighting in the darkroom, no daylight. This is only sensitive to ultraviolet light, so you can use dim incandescent lighting. I just changed the bulbs in the white lights in my darkroom to lower wattage. I'm probably being overcautious. I would avoid fluorescent tubes because some of them do contain a certain element of ultraviolet, but dim incandescent lighting is fine. It makes it easier to work and to see. So we'll just leave that dry, and then we're ready to expose it. Okay, so here's my ultraviolet light box, and I'm putting the contact printer with the negative and the coated paper underneath, and once I've turned it on, you'll see the ultraviolet light coming on there, and as I said before, I'm now going to time this for 13 minutes. So this is my darkroom sink setup for the print I'm about to make. The left hand end, that first dish will be the developer, and the second dish will be a rinse. Third dish is the first clearing bath, then a second clearing bath, then a third clearing bath, and then at the end I have a big wash tank where I can make a final wash. So the sink is 12 foot wide, so I've got plenty of room for laying out big dishes in the sink together with their jugs and so on. So it's all clean and easy to use, all easy to keep clean. So that's my kind of darkroom sink setup. Okay, I hope you can see the image just after the ultraviolet light is already partly formed. The bits that have been just exposed to light without the negative on the edges are almost fully black already. And as I think you've probably, if you look at the first video, you will see that the image comes up almost instantaneously when you apply the ammonium citrate developer. We call it developer, but it's different completely from traditional silver printing. So what we do is put it into the dish, and then you want to immerse it immediately. If you don't, you'll get bubbles and streakings, and so the image should come up almost instantaneously. There it is. And to all intents and purposes, this is now pretty much fully developed. I usually leave it in for an extra 30 seconds to a minute or so, just to make absolutely certain that all the coating has been developed out, platinum and palladium, but nothing more visual will happen to this print now. That is effectively it. The next bath is simply a rinse, which will get rid of a lot of the chemicals that I've used. And then we can begin the clearing process through 3 successive baths of EDTA clearing solution, which will help to chelate the ferric oxalate, the iron solution, so that can be washed away in water, leaving only the noble metals of platinum and palladium. I'll let that drain for a little while. We just drain the excess off print. Quite thick, heavy paper, so it absorbs quite a lot of solution. And then into the rinse bath, where we'll let it rinse in a few changes of water. Before it goes into the clearing bath. There's no point in my showing you the clearing bath because nothing visual happens, but the times are about 5 minutes in each of the clearing baths, and then a final wash of about half an hour or so, and then you have a fully archival print which will last forever because it's platinum and palladium, which are noble metals. Okay, well, here is the print you saw me make. I'll keep the size of the paper, but when it's mounted, I'll keep the brush marks in. I like to keep them in. Some people, as I said before, mask them out, but I think it gives each print a certain individuality, because obviously the brush strokes are going to be different on every print, but there it is. And it'll be mounted up in the same way as these prints here. If you look at my video on archival processing, previous video, you'll see I described the way to mount and mat prints in that. So these are platinum prints, and they're mounted with polyester archival corners, so the print is not permanently fixed to the mount. So if the mount should ever get damaged, the print can be taken out very, very easily without harming it in any way. So this is how I mount all my silver prints, in addition to my platinum prints. 100% cotton rag, acid-free board. As the print, of course, is absolutely archivally stable, there's no point whatsoever. It's counterproductive, in fact, to mount them on anything that isn't 100% cotton-free rag board. So that print will last hopefully forever. Well, once again, many thanks for watching. If you like the content and want me to make more, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll make some more in the future. Thanks again.